And welcome back to Motion to Adjourn. Senator Lightbourne, are you with us?
Yes, I am. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope all is well over there.
Yes, everything is well. Everything is good and sunny in the Bahamas.
No, and I agree. And it's interesting because it's almost kind of like a mirror of my own position here in my respective party. So I'm very interested to hear about how things have been going in the Bahamas from your perspective. And if you don't mind, would you mind disclosing how old you are?
Yes, so right now I'm 35 years of age. The political structure in the Bahamas right now, pretty much right now we're in the essence of, post the pandemic and global, shutdown. And so right now the Bahamian economy is thriving, for a lack of a better term, in terms of from an economic standpoint, with our tourist numbers surging. And so many different stuff going on. We've just signed over last year, $2.4 billion were signed in terms of investments for the country. And so moving forward in terms of what the Bahamas is doing is trying to set up a touristic and cultural hub that will definitely push our country to new levels, and that's what we're trying to do.
That sounds amazing. And how has tourism been for the Bahamas? I don't want to say post-pandemic, but let's say post-peak pandemic during lockdown. How have you been since?
Yeah, so the Bahamas is seeing great numbers. There's been a surge. Everything is coming back. There's a stabilization to our economy in terms of more and more jobs. We've had the recent launch and opening of new hotels. And so also the relaunch of some hotels that have been closed or that were closed in the midst of the pandemic. So it's been very promising for our country and for a lot of Bahamians at large. And so I think that's a good point. And I've seen it also being able to have been fortunate enough to go to a few other Caribbean islands to see where our countries are now rebounding and pushing forward, trying to regain their prowess in terms of our global economy in whichever industries and sectors that they are a part of.
Thank you. And, in this show, we try to kind of showcase some of the similarities between our sister islands. And I just wanted to ask you a bit about your parliamentary structure and, just a brief blurb about your political career, from, its beginning to where it is now.
Okay. So we have a parliamentary monarch where, as an independent country, we still have a party structure. Where we presently in the Bahamas, there are 39 constituencies. And there are two major parties, which are the Free National Movement and the Progressive Liberal Party. Like I said, there are airy similarities in regards to, the Bahamas. There was also a UBP in the Bahamas as well. And so what is in our structure itself is that whichever major party receives the majority of the seats in the general election, that is the party that, retains or holds the government. Right now, the political party that I'm a part of, the Progressive Liberal Party, in the last general election, we won 31 of the 39 seats. So right now, we're led by the Prime Minister, Philip Brave Davis, in terms of those are the mandates. My involvement with the Progressive Liberal Party has stemmed from when I was a young child. I would say, as a very teenager, from my father, just instilling in me and just telling me about the general history of the Bahamas. And then I joined the youth arm of the party, and over that time I evolved and I went off to continue my studies at Lincoln University in Philadelphia. And then I came back and I joined the local branch of the party. And then I was asked to serve as a national vice chairman and then also the assistant treasurer of the party. And then after the election, I was asked to serve as a senator and also chairman of the Bahamas Development Bank. And so I think that I look at it, I think politics is a very great avenue in terms of being able to help and support and push your country forward. And I think that's very important. I think a lot of persons, have the mindset that they want to help. And I think that's the most genuine and purest form of joining politics, is that you want to help your country and you want to help your fellow man and woman, because you want your country to be a better place and you want to leave a lasting impression and imprint on the footprint of your country.
Totally agree. I totally agree. And what are the ideology differences between the two current main parties in as unbiased explanation as possible?
Yeah. No, that's fine. I always tell persons I feel as if that the two the two major parties in the Bahamas, I think, are based on they're separated solely by history. I think both of them have some of the same ideologies, but in terms of the conceptualization of the parties, the Progressive Liberal Party was formed in 1953 with the essence of trying to support persons that were disenfranchised or overlooked in our country. And so in 1953, there were four men that decided to start this party because they felt that if they were not included by the UBP and the major decision makers of the party, the country at that time. And so when we started in 1953, there was many years of strife and losing at the polls, and just basic challenges that most premature political parties go through. And then in 1967, the PLP was able to get the government because there were now implementation of majority rule, where one man, one vote, and we were able to take the government, and then we were able to push for independence in 1973, push for national insurance on the defense force. A lot of these institutions was founded underneath the Progressive Liberal Party. But in 1971, well, before 1971, there was a split in the Progressive Liberal Party, where a few members of the party felt as if that they didn't like the direction of the party, and so they decided to split. And so at that time, the United Bahamian Party, which was the UBP, approached these young men. They called themselves, they were the Dissident Eight, and they had formed a political party by the name of the Free PLP. And so the UBP and these members of the Free PLP decided to join and create a party by the name of the Free National Movement. And so that party was that party was founded in 1971, and they were able to get the government in 1992 to 2002, and then again from 2007 to 2012. And so that is how, those, and then they were in power from 2017 to 2019. So the Progressive Liberal Party and the Free National Movement, their parties from its core that's based on trying to support and uplift the Bahamian people in terms of how they were formed, and the parties and obviously the players in the formation of the parties. So that is that I can consider or will consider the fundamental or primary difference between those parties.
Well, thank you for that answer, Senator Lightbourne. We're going to go to our break for the news, but after that, we'll be right back with you.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you for your patience, Senator Lightbourne. You still with us?
Yes, sir. I'm right here.
Perfect. So you mentioned something which was independence. And Bermuda, our current government has stipulated that there should be some informative talks about this particular topic. But as someone who is a government senator in a nation that has gone independent, could you share a little bit of that history from the Bahamas and how you guys have fared so far since?
Okay, definitely. Very good question. The Bahamas has fared very well post-independence, definitely because of strong leadership and vision for your country. I think you have to, in terms of those steps, are very important. And there was also, myself being a very young senator, there was, what I've learned from history, that there were persons that were very adamant against the move to independence because of the uncertainty and not knowing what will lie ahead for the country economically and putting in structure and all those stuff in place. And so that's something that definitely comes with fear, but it also comes where that is now the leadership steps in terms of what is your vision, what is the blueprint, what do you want to do and see your country, realizing that you have to be able to sustain yourself economically and seeing how you be able to empower your country and empower your people in order to move forward. And I think that's very important. As you would know, around the late 60s, early 70s, there was a revolution going around the Caribbean where a lot of the Caribbean countries wanted and pushed for independence because, they felt socially empowered. But even right now in the Bahamas, as a young Bahamian, I always tell persons the social revolution for the most part, has been succeeded. Now it's the economic revolution where we want to empower and ensure that we provide a sustainability or sustainable future economically for the present and future generations of the Bahamas. And I think so those are very important steps that you all must look at in terms, but it's a very tough conversation and something that I believe is that can be done, but it comes to great consultation and a very direct and a very, thoroughly planned out agenda and ideas that which you can see come to fruition, and so that's my view on it, but it has to be something that is very, thoughtfully done and has great leadership at the helm.
I totally agree, and I think that's something that we're seeing in these conversations as well. Is those are the two pieces people really want to see before considering it. So I appreciate hearing that from yourself. Just moving into some of the historic relations between Bermuda and the Bahamas, would you be able to share anything of our listening audience about connections between our two islands?
Well, what I do know, and like I said, I don't, doesn't want to sound like a political person. I know the relationship between both the PLP in Bermuda and in the Bahamas, and it's a long-based. The first Prime Minister of the Bahamas is Lyndon Pinling. He had a relationship with the PLP and helped with its formation, and also still continues to this day as the present Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Philip Brave Davis. I accompanied him late last year to the PLP convention in Bermuda, and so that relationship and ties are still strong, still to this day. And I think that's very important, and I encourage regional, support, because I think that we, as persons in the Caribbean, that we must not think that we are by ourselves, that we have persons in Jamaica, Trinidad, St. Lucia, all these different countries, St. Kitts and Nevis. But we have to support one another and realize that, there are ideas and initiatives that can work in different island nations, and there's some ideas or some initiatives that cannot work. So I think it's all about being collectively working together to find out which works best for your island and your country. And I think that's very important. I think we should, we've all heard the saying, no man is an island, and so we should not try to act or operate as if that we are, collaborative and getting ideas from your other counterparts is a very important and vital way on how we can achieve and become better as island nations.
I agree, and I'll point out one slight connection that we probably have as islands is your last name, Senator Lightbourne. Yeah. Lots of Lightbournes running around Bermuda right now. That I wonder if maybe there might be a historic route there. You know what I mean, between our two islands.
Yeah, definitely. I was advised of that as well, and I was not aware that there are so many Lightbournes in Bermuda. So definitely, there may be, some connection there. Definitely, maybe. And
I think my co-host here, who's running with me, is got a little bit of relation there.
Yeah, believe it or not, I have a cousin named Quinton Lightbourne.
Wow.
I have a cousin named Quinton Lightbourne. True story.
Wow.
So hey, we may be cousins, man. So
possibly.
Small region.
Yeah.
Definitely.
See, so that's one thing. At least we know that part. But
yes.
Just to for my curious, because I'm a bit curious about the election terms in the Bahamas, because I know that there have been talks of term limits here in Bermuda at one point as far as like a set date for election. But as it stands right now in Bermuda, the ruling party can call it any time within 5 years. Is that similar in Bahamas, or do you guys have a slightly different system there regarding election terms?
Okay, that's very good. That's a good question. Right now, there's no election. There's no term limit. Right now, our election cycle is once every 5 years, but the government has the authority to call an early election after the third year if they believe that there needs to be a snap or early election. The previous government did that because the elections were supposed to be scheduled for 2022, but they held the election on September of 2021. And so there are no term limits. The first Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Mr. Lyndon Pinling, he served for 25 years straight, from 1967 to 1992. There have been talks about establishing term limits, but nothing has been sent to Parliament as yet to enshrine it in our legislation. And so we are awaiting that as well. I do support term limits. I do believe that there should be a 2-term limit for the Prime Minister or the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Because I think, as a young person, as a millennial, I think there has to be representation from all facets, because, I've heard the story in many instances where some persons felt as if like their generation were missed or overlooked because of, leaderships or leaders being in power for so long. And so I think that's very important, and it shows progression, and it shows that, that you have to continue moving your country forward and putting more and more persons to the forefront. And so that is what, my personal view is that there should be term limits.
And I agree with term limits as well. So as you know, my co-host MP Famous, he's an old timer, right? So he was listening to us young cats try to piece together the history, and he's sending me some WhatsApps. I'm just going to read them to you so that we can get that knowledge out there. So he's saying that the first settlers of the Bahamas came from Bermuda. Governor William Sale took Puritans to the Eleuthera Island, the same person Sale Road is named after. So, wow. Yeah, just a little bit of history there for us so that we both know.
Yeah.
And he was saying both Bermudians, both black and white, were the original settlers of both the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos, hence the same surnames.
Wow, well, I appreciate that. I knew there were definitely a lot of connection in Turks and Caicos, but just recently meeting Mr. Famous and so many other persons from Bermuda. And I have, there's a few Bahamians as well that are presently living in Bermuda, and so, just recently finding out all that information has been very, very overwhelming and very, very inquisitive for me. I've definitely started, a family tree, and I'm still trying to wrap up the loose ends.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like I always tell Famous, this is why we keep, the old timer around, because he gives you that wealth. And I always tease him because I'm 28, so I'm a bit younger than him when I entered politics. But it's always great to have that wealth of knowledge of the region, because I feel like our generation, we don't get it as freely, as far as our connections to our sister islands and how this region is so interwoven as a people, that we really are one people.
Yeah, without a doubt, we really are one people. And, I like the new age of social media and also WhatsApp and being able to connect with anyone all over the world, and realizing and getting this resource of knowledge and interaction. And one of the key things to me, like when I went off to university, one of the key things was like finding more and more information and ideas from so many different persons and all our counterparts. I was fortunate enough to go to Lincoln University in Philadelphia, where I had a great diaspora of persons from the Caribbean, from St. Lucia, Dominica, Anguilla, St. Kitts. And so it gave me a greater understanding and appreciation of, of persons in the Caribbean, our heritage, our history. And like I said, I think those are the key part of moving our country forward. If you even look at it, the first Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Lyndon Pinling, he went to school in the United Kingdom. And so he was able to interact with Nnamdi Azikiwe and Kwame Nkrumah whilst in university. And so those ideas, those melting pots where they sat down and spoke about their countries in the Caribbean and in Africa and brought those ideas back home. The idea of becoming independent was not just a singular idea by any prime minister of any Caribbean country. They saw the revolution happening all over countries in Africa and realized that, hey, African countries are doing it. Persons of color like ourselves, we can do this ourselves. And when they came home, they pushed forward and made those stuff happen.
Absolutely. And, it's always good to get knowledge such as that, because it really helps us with our direction as far as where we're going, right? So just circling back to the election, how many years into your term is the current government?
So right now we are 14 months in. So we are in term for, so we have about 3.5 more years left. Yes.
Fresh. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah.
And how is the political climate in the Bahamas currently?
So right now the political climate is very good. Like I said, economically things are very much balancing off. As when you come in out of a global recession and complete lockdown where your economy was just stopped and nothing was happening, and now persons are working, rebounding. So things are looking very promising, the amount of investment that we brought in. And so right now things are going it's very optimistic, I must say, in the country.
That's good to hear. And as a senator, right, I don't know if you can tip your hand here, but do you anticipate possibly running as for a position as an MP in the up and coming one? You have time to think about it, I know, because it's just happened, but just curious.
Yeah, so there is definitely things there are variables that I'm looking at right now to see the possibility of it. It's also about preparing yourself and realizing, putting a platform and where you feel that you can contribute and make a lasting impact in your country. And I think that's very important. I always tell persons, there's no ego or no rush to just become a part of politics. You have to know exactly what you want to be, what you want to see done, and how you want to achieve it, because that's what every country needs. You have to be in the purest form of why you want to join politics and how you want to help your country. And I think that is the best way that you'll be successful, and you'll be able to leave, and leave a lasting impression on the lives that you touch. It's just being pure on what you want to do.
Totally agree. And, obviously we are in two different phases, because Bermuda, our government has been in for about 3 years now. So this is usually where things start getting a little spicy. So,
yeah.
So we're kind of seeing a bit of an uptick here. So it's always interesting to see how these different intervals are happening throughout the region. Just for the listening audience, would you be able to give a little bit of insight into how the Senate operates in the Bahamas? Because we also have a Senate, but it would be nice to hear how it operates over there.
Yeah, so the Senate works here is that we have something called the Senate is called the upper house. Historically, the Senate has been where there are more senior men and women who are part of the Senate that gave advice to the lower house, which is our House of Assembly. We do the second reading of the bills. So bills are tabled in the House of Assembly in the lower house, and then they are voted on, and then it's sent to the upper house, where we also debate over the bills, and then we send it to the Governor General to move the bills to enact them as laws once they're approved. And so that is how it usually works. Our senators are appointed. They are not elected. They're appointed by the leader of the government, which will be the Prime Minister, and the leader of the opposition. So there's a total of 16 senators, and 9 are government-appointed senators, and 4 are opposition senators.
Okay, and the term Governor General.
3 are considered independent senators.
Okay, which would be nominated by the Governor General.
Yes.
And how does that translate, now that you guys are independent, regarding that Governor General role?
Sorry, you said how would that be, how are those independent senators viewed?
How does the Governor General's role translate into independence? Because we have a governor, but that is due to, in Bermuda, that's due to us still being an overseas territory.
Yeah.
So how does that role differ?
So the role differs. The Governor General acts as a symbol of the Queen so we're a constitutional monarch, right? A parliamentary monarch, sorry. So we still adhere to say the head of state is still classified as the Queen, but in the form of the Governor General, where we still are independent, like all except for Barbados, which recently removed their Governor General. Now they have a president who pretty much acts as the same title as the Governor General. After the bills are passed, the president would then approve and enshrine it into law. And so that's in essence, so it's almost like a symbol or a figurehead which the Governor General represents.
And that's interesting. I just wanted to ask, well, who appoints the Governor General? Ooh. Oh, I think we lost. So I think we'll go for our last break and see if we can get Senator Lightbourne back on the line.
Welcome to Checking In with Bermudiana Beach, a new series designed to tell you everything you need to know about the new Bermudiana Beach Resort. With the resort set to open summer 2023, there are some exciting things happening, including a redesign of the layout. The redesign, as you can see these images, is spectacular with an oceanfront pool overlooking the South Shore. Does it get any better than that? A beach elevator and steps will lead you down to a pristine pink sand beach instead of the originally planned funcular. And of course, with the redesign comes construction. There's lots of action going on, including building out the pool area, bar and grill, beach elevator and steps, restaurant, spa, gym, and hotel reception building. As you can see, Bermudiana Beach comes with top-tier amenities, which are part of the package if you decide to purchase one of these hotel condominiums. To learn more about Bermudiana Beach, visit www.bermudianabeach.com or follow us on Instagram at Bermudiana Beach.
This is Pat Trott from Travel Edge. Join me on Tuesday mornings at 8:15 on Power 95 for the Travel Talk Show. We have first-hand knowledge, global experience, and industry connections to fulfill your travel needs. In this current world of uncertainty, we are your advocate. There has never been a better time to use a travel advisor. Whether you're ready to travel now or in the future, we are here to help.
And welcome back to Motion to Adjourn. Senator Lightbourne, have you rejoined us?
Yes, my apologies. I think got disconnected. I'm not sure what happened, but I'm right here.
It happens, trust me. I was just asking, who does the UK still appoint the Governor General, or is it done internally?
No, internally. The Prime Minister appoints the Prime Minister appoints the Governor General.
Okay, that's understandable. And just you mentioned Barbados and their move to heading to being a republic. What are your thoughts on that? And do you believe that that's in the future of the Bahamas?
So my personal thoughts on it, I do agree with it. I think that definitely there should be a move towards that. Every country constitution is set up differently. In regards in Barbados, that the republic or the move to republic could have been done or was done through an act of parliament. In the Bahamas, the way our constitution is set up is that we have to have a referendum in order for that to happen, and so there has to be a poll where we have to go out and have to have the general consensus before any such action is done. And so, but I do believe that a republic is something that, for future generations and generations like myself and Gen Z, and we're more and more adamant about it because we were born in a free Bahamas. Like we were not, so there are a lot of persons, like my father, my mother, and my father, when they were born with British passports, and so there's definitely a deep affinity towards that heritage for persons like myself, and that is where all we knew with the Prime Minister and the Governor General. We never knew about, the Queen and the monarch and all those stuff. So it's very different for persons of my generation. And so I think most persons of my generation are all for a republic because we see, we want to have or to be pretty much solely considered as an independent country.
Understood. And thank you for that answer. We're coming close to the end of our time. So I would like to hand over the mic to you to pass on any statements or information that you would like to the listening audience, and to say any closing remarks.
Yeah, well, definitely I'd like to say, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. I know we had some challenges in terms of getting the connection initially. My apologies for that, but I just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity. Continue to be doing these type initiatives that yourself you're doing to teach and talk to other regional counterparts. As I stated earlier, I think it's very important that we have these conversations with one another and see how we can help and fine-tune what is being done in other Caribbean countries to know what we can and cannot do in our country. And I think, what I like about persons in the Caribbean is that we're all uniquely different. We all have our challenges, we all have our quirks, but it's just pretty much understanding one another to realize that we are all still one people, whether we want to admit it or not. We're all alike, and we're just trying to make ourselves and our country a better place.
Definitely. And I appreciate you giving us some of your time, and I know that being a government senator, it must be a very packed schedule. So thank you again. And these are the type of things that we want to continue to do, especially in the new year and beyond, is to keep creating those connections to the islands in the region, because that is, I think, what's going to lead us during the hard times to come with, environmental issues and global warming, all that stuff. We can tackle it together as a region. So thank you so much. I do hope that we'll be able to have you on at a future date just to check in and see how the Bahamas is making out and progressing with your initiative.
Okay, definitely. I appreciate it, and I will be back.
Yes, thank you. You take care and be safe.
Okay, you too.
All right. So, Don, I think that we got the plane off the ground, and I think it was a good one.
Yeah, I had to go back to refuel.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
We finally got the interview, the show going, so that's good.
Definitely. And, from motion to adjourn to everybody who is listening, I know we said it before, we went on breaking the holidays, but now that we're revving back up and trying to improve our offerings to you, we want to thank each and every one of you who have taken the time to listen to us, and we hope to continue to up our game and, bring more informative things and just to continue to elevate the show, as my co-host might say. So, with that, I think that it's come to that time where we have to adjourn. But before that, I just want to say, I hope everyone enjoyed the holidays. I hope you gained as much weight as I did.
What? Couple inches around the midsection. I see that. Okay, more free and pie, or did you have cassava pie this time?
Yeah, I had one of the best cassava pies I think my aunt has made in a long time. I was like, whoo,
Kept going back for more.
Yeah. I put it in the frying pan. But, and also we wanted to do a shout out to, from Motion to Adjourn, my co-host and I, to the Gumbays who did all that work over the holiday season. Thank you so much. And, we appreciate it. And we as a community, we have to really show that love to our cultural icons and our culture as a people. So with that, Don, motion to adjourn.
Next week.
That's right. We adjourn.
And you have been listening to Motion to Adjourn with MP Chris Famous and Dwayne Robinson, JP.
You're locked to Power 95, Bermuda's big station, at 94.9 FM, a Bermuda Broadcasting Company station. Blazing yesterday and today's hip-hop, R&B, old school, and reggae. You know what it is, Bermuda. It's Power 95.